Nice timing there.
You hear that, folks? That's the sound of Michael Corleone coming to his demise.
Oh my goodness gracious me.
Alec, you know what's crazy is there's not a single offer that couldn't be refused in this movie.
Yeah, I know.
No.
It's almost like it. Well, stop the presses. They're trying to come after us. They don't want us to review this movie. Someone doesn't. They reported a fire. They would rather. You know, I have that shirt. I should have worn that shirt. That would have been cute.
It would have been cute. It would have been family. It would have been about family.
Would have been about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Well, at the end of the day, at least Michael had his family.
Well, and speaking about family, we can all be certain that nepotism is alive and well because of how. I mean, it's his movie, so he can decide who he wants to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
But Francis Ford Coppola's choices for casting, if he had another casting director that wasn't him, boy howdy did I think they made a massive mistake because it almost completely ruined the movie. In my mind.
Okay.
So we're reviewing Godfather Part 3. Today we had reviewed the Star Wars saga, the complete saga. You can actually check that out on our channel. We did that back in 2019, the lead up to Rise of Skywalker. We've been looking for more film series to kind of review, and we happened upon, hey, neither of us had watched any of the Godfather films. So we're like, that's a nice trilogy of films to do. It's a nice and short. I mean, the movies themselves are quite long, but the nice to be able to get out there and review some films that are held in very high regard. So we came to Part 3. The only thing that I knew about Part 3 going into it was that there was a very awkward kiss scene, which that held up pretty well, and that it was held in not as high regard as the other ones. Then that was about it.
Right. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, all I knew is it wasn't held as in high regard like the other ones. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously took place years after the first two.
Yep. So the other two were in the early 70s, 72 and 74, I believe, and this one was 1990.
So we can get Michael nice and old for this role.
Yeah, they did.
All right. Well. Look, I don't hate it. I don't hate this movie.
Yeah, I don't hate this movie at all. Actually.
Like I expected it to be really bad. I don't know. I didn't look into it extensively, but just from a glance, I guess the reviews aren't horrible on this movie, but it's just
they're actually all very positive.
They're just not excellent.
Most of them.
Like supreme excellency of the first two, but I think it's a good movie, but I just think it's. For me, this is the most noticeable one where it dragged on a lot, and it was like it felt long, which I didn't really get so much from the first two. But I felt myself bored in this movie a lot. Like it wasn't too much excitement for me.
There's a lot of weird oddities in this film. I thought that stood out to me. That I kind of agree. I don't necessarily feel that it. I don't know if I would say I was bored, but there were definitely. Going into the film, I just didn't know why we were focusing on. It didn't make sense until the very end of the film when it kind of all sort of came full circle. But I was like, why are we focusing so much on Mary?
Mary.
Why are we focusing so much on Mary? And because she's not interesting, and literally every scene she's in is the worst. Like it's not even necessarily that she's bad. Yeah, I think she is bad, but it's just that when you're playing against actors of such high caliber and you're coming at your lines like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. Yeah. Dad, I want to see him. No, I do love him. It's like, no, there's like, I understand that, like, it's probably as in terms of direction, it's like, okay, well, I want you to make it, she's just an unassuming, simple girl. She's not like a vixen or a bombshell or a seductress. She's just a simple girl in a simple world,
She
and
cute though.
she's an innocence. Yeah, she's cute. I don't care about her at all, and she ruins every scene she's in,
But
like it by making it so cringy.
what
It's
if it
so
weren't
bad.
if it weren't for her though, we wouldn't have that hot cousin cooking scene, baby.
You mean the most awkward kiss? That
It
was
was
so
hot,
uncomfortable. That was not hot. That was
so
super
hot. Do you see how
uncomfortable.
they rolled those things? Boop, a little bit of roll action with the hands.
Yeah, all the roll action, and then the hand clasping, and then the
The
awkward
hand
like
clasp.
neck cheek. It just was so bad.
Hot.
It was so uncomfortable.
And it's just like it made it so much better that they were cousins.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
awesome.
So we got a good old fashioned incest in this.
But
So
Michael's old fashioned. He doesn't like that kind of stuff.
but it's interesting because I think parts of Italy and Sicily actually are kind of known for cousin like first cousin romance like being a thing, at least historically. I don't know, like probably obviously more recently I would think that would be frowned upon because of birth defects and all that, and also just the fact that it's weird.
I do like the idea that Michael is the old fashioned one. Like he's old fashioned.
Yeah.
He doesn't like cousins fucking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's
Keep
just
up
like,
with the
it's
times,
wrong.
Michael.
No, he says multiple times it's wrong.
Yeah, he says
And I mean,
wrong,
he
and
know-
it's dangerous.
and it's dangerous, which and
But
spoiler alert, turns out being completely true.
Michael's old and he's old fashioned.
He's
you
just
know.
an old-fashioned kind of guy, yeah.
He
So
likes to keep the love outside of the family.
So I will say I did really enjoy the film, despite that. It's that whole like arc, that weird, awkward, terrible romance that unfortunately is like so tied to the ending of the film. I didn't like any of that, but everything else was really fascinating. I definitely understand why. So there was a re-edit of this film. And we'll actually be covering that. Surprise! We're actually going to be covering that next week. But we watched just the original theatrical release for this time. And originally, Francis Ford Coppola wanted to call this either just The Death of Michael Corleone or The Godfather Coda. He did not want to call it Part 3, but the studio kind of put their foot down and kind of made it be titled that.
Okay.
Brand recognition, because in his mind, Parts 1 and 2, it's a duology, and this is just an epilogue, more or less. And knowing it definitely feels that way. Definitely feels that way, because this movie is like the overall narrative arc. So we know. The first film is kind of about Michael's rise. Second movie is all about the loss of his soul, and this movie is like his attempt at redemption.
The redemption arc.
Is there room for me to redeem myself? Is there a possibility? So it's all about his regret and like him trying to make better on the horrible things that he did in his life. And it's really fascinating because the way the film's edited in the beginning, I was all kind of like, is this all kind of just a ruse? Like it took a while for me to catch on. It's like, no, he's actually like kind of genuine about all this, because like it almost seemed like it's just another kind of ruse, known we've known from the previous two films. So, but no, you really get to know like just how. There is a place of genuine like sorrow and regret and like suffering, internal suffering, basically, and very powerfully portrayed by Al Pacino. Did a spectacular job as always, but it's still interesting to see like all it's still, even when he's trying to better himself, it's all the decisions he's made in his life are still having these big sort of cascading effects on everyone's lives.
Which is when we come to the arc of that not wanting Mary to be with Vincent, and that's like somehow becomes top of mind as like Michael's not Michael. How dare Michael keep these lovers apart? But it's like that's the least offensive thing Michael's done in like all the movies. But
really.
And then ultimately, the resolution is that well, it is interesting. It's like literally the moment before her death is she's like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And then, boom, and he's just. I don't know if what that's supposed to like. How you're supposed to feel about that exactly? Like, are you supposed to be against Michael and keeping them apart? Because
I definitely
the most reasonable thing.
He is definitely very much on his side. I'm not. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that either. To me, it was more, even when he tries to do good, all of the things that he's done in his life still make it so that, I mean, like kind of like the Cardinal said, the Cardinal who would become Pope John Paul the first said, "You deserve to suffer, but you may still be redeemed if you find in your heart to repent." And he still, up to the very end, I mean, he dies alone. He slumps over completely alone, other than just, I guess, a dog. It was
that was weird, right?
Isn't that a little weird? Yeah, I still don't know how I quite how I feel about that.
Yeah, really. At the very end, it was like, boom. Okay, there was the assassination attempt. Lousy assassin, by the way.
Okay, he was lousy in his final thing, but like, he killed like 4 people.
Oh, that's true. He almost had it there,
like extremely effectively.
And then they got the switcheroo, so Michael got out just in the perfect time.
Yeah.
And then, but he just blew it. He was like,
he just
right in broad daylight shoots him. What are you gonna?
Yeah, just through the arm. He completely misses the shot. Yep. You're like 3 inches. Come on.
You missed your mark, and you're obviously not gonna go unnoticed. So you're done. All right.
Yeah.
And then so we go from they ruined a perfectly good opera right there. It was a swell evening.
By the way, what was going on in that opera? That was there's a lot of like this. I really look forward to seeing this again, actually, because I really want to kind of like try to kind of piece together what the opera, what's going on in the opera. You know, happening? It's all. If beginning, it felt kind of like Carmen, and then there was like the weird scene where where like the Madonna and Child was being brought in, and then there's like a real Jesus that shows up, like walking down the steps, that like, but not Child Jesus, but like the crucified on the cross Jesus, like walking down these steps, and then like the crucifix drops. And there's just all kinds of like, what is going on? I don't know what that's about.
I did feel like the whole opera scene went on for way too long.
100% agree.
Like, it was almost like a more dramatic equivalent of a musical montage, but yet they stretched out for such a long time, and it was just like
it felt like they were trying to top. I felt like he was trying to top the scene from the first film, which is done perfectly. The baptism, which is just perfection. This, I agree, it does. I think it was really well executed, but I agree that it drags on too long, because like we just keep cutting back to all the disparate characters. They're all in their areas, and it just keeps cutting back and forth. It goes on for like a half an hour. Yeah, it's like it does. It really kind of drags. Yeah.
So well, back to where. So
anyway,
the assassination thing, and Mary dies from that, and then you have the what's this, like a silent yell, and then it cuts into the sound. That was pretty. I like that.
That was very effective. I thought that was great. Yeah.
And then right after that, boom! It cuts away, and then you have a compilation of Michael dancing with women, the women of his life.
The Michael dances with women compilation.
And then right from that, you cut to old ass Michael, and he dies in a chair, presumably in Sicily, maybe.
kind of similarly to the way that Vito died. I mean, just in a simple
Yeah.
sort of fashion.
But it's like, did that really need to be there? I don't feel like it needed to be. It's like they threw that in, and it was literally a like a 10-second clip. Just to be like,
It
here's
was.
him old, and he's gonna die.
I mean, I like the fact that they show that he was completely alone. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was still weird.
Hmm.
I still don't know how I feel about that.
But I
But
really am curious how, like the epilogue to this epilogue, how everything resolved. Because by the end, he had like been getting on good terms with Kay again somehow.
yeah, yeah,
They were getting along. And
yeah.
everybody was happy, and then Mary gets killed because they were trying to kill him. So I'm sure that it didn't go well after that.
Mm,
Ruined Tony's big day.
yeah.
So I would be interested in what happened between then, because you just kind of cut. You don't know if he's like truly alone, or if he just happened to be sitting out by himself one day, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well, he doesn't have grand. So with the juxtaposition of you think of how Vito died, he doesn't have grandchildren with him.
mm-hmm.
You know, he's just got a couple of dogs. There's a dog that's like sniffing around, and then it just like fades into the
Yeah.
credits.
So I mean, the big theme of this movie is also the whole coming full circle with Michael wanting to make them a legitimate, like he said in the very first Godfather to Kay, that he wanted to make them a legitimate business.
Mm,
But then we come around here, and it's like he cut out the gambling and stuff.
mm.
He has this whole Vito Corleone Foundation, and he got like, what was that honor that he received in the very beginning?
I don't. Yeah, I don't really know exactly.
But
Something.
but there's like
Yeah, the church was like a recognize.
they're
I don't know if it
recognizing
was
him
like they recognized him
for
because
his
of his
charity.
huge charitable donations to the Catholic Church. I don't know exactly what the ceremony was precisely, but um,
And then it's like Kay calls him out on it, where it's like, yeah, that was a shameful ceremony. Like it's clearly not.
because she doesn't believe that he actually wants to repent. And at that point, like I was with Kay, I was like, I don't know if I
Yeah.
don't think he does. You know, I don't know. But as the movie goes on, you do kind of understand that he is trying to make things right as best he can.
But I mean, the fact that he's being recognized by
Yeah.
a church is kind of
Yeah, that's kind of shady, but so this actually ties into actual like historical events of the late 80s, because there was a huge papal banking scandal, which is what that whole thing with the bank that they were trying to, it's the bank and the land, like the real estate company. So I think if memory serves, the way that
immobiliary.
yeah, so the way that like turned out, like in reality, is very similar. It was kind of loosely based on that, but essentially what was happening is that the church owned all of these property. You know, the Catholic Church as a global organization, you think about it, it owns all of these properties around the entire world. But the real estate agency and the banks that they used were basically funneling money to profit, not the church. So there was this. That was a whole scandal because, you know, church is one of the most charitable organizations in the world, and yet all of this money that should be going to charity is not.
Yeah.
So that was
like,
a huge.
We'll make sure it gets to the right people.
Yeah. But it's not, and that ties into here because through Michael and Vincent, they sort of find out that this whole thing is a big scam, that they're trying to sign up into and up with. They're trying to make it a legitimate business, and they're being like cut out. And the reason they're being cut out is because it's a scam, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the actual the actual death of Pope John Paul I. Died about 33 days after he was chosen as the Pope. There is many a conspiracy theory about whether or not his death was a poisoning or just of natural causes. I don't think the conspiracy theories have much to go on. I'm pretty sure he just had a heart attack.
Hmm.
So while he was reading in bed, and that actually plays out pretty much from what I read up on. That actually plays out in the film just about exactly how it happened in reality, where a maid came to look in on him, noticed that he was reading. You know, you could see he had been reading, and his tea had gone cold, and then he's dead.
Hmm.
So had a heart attack. It seemed, or something. Died in his sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we also have Joe Zasa is a big, I guess, villain in this movie.
First half, yeah, he's kind of the big.
Vinny is beefing with him
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And then eventually he sends two guys to kill him at his like apartment, I guess, and there's a whole scene with that. And he kills those two. It's almost like Vincenzo is almost Michael, like already halfway through his like soul being gone. He's like he
Yeah.
jumped right in. He's already like on board to kill everybody, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he's so he was Sonny's illegitimate son.
Yeah.
Probably through the woman that Sonny had been hooking up with throughout the first movie. That was my assumption.
Mm.
And yeah, he's kind of like, I can kill people. I'm good with all that. I'm a kind of a sleazy guy and sleeping around a bunch of women and yeah. So he's got a big temper just like his father did. So,
but he loves his cousin.
yeah, he loves his cousin.
The price for getting into the life in the end is that you can't be with your cousin.
Yeah.
In that way. It's like, oof.
Yeah, because that's
a big
weird.
Price to pay.
Yeah, huge price to pay, isn't it?
It's tough, but that's the life you're asking for, bro.
But they're in love.
You're basically asking for celibacy from this guy.
Yeah,
That's
jeez.
crazy. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention he did the whole ear biting scene.
Oh yeah, the friggin' Mike Tyson move at the beginning of the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's like present in everything that Michael does is this idea that people keep trying to do this illegitimate shady stuff, and he's like, no, let's not do that anymore. I don't need tough guys. I need more lawyers.
Yeah.
But then they keep doing this stuff, and then he had the quote just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in, dude. I was like shocked to hear that. I didn't know that was in this movie. That quote.
What that quote?
Yeah.
Is that just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in? Was that like from this movie? Is that like a big thing? I looked it up,
and it seems to be like that's where they came from. I'm like,
really?
I
Wow.
find that so hard to believe, but
yeah, that's kind of wild. It is. I mean, that is a pretty. I mean, it is that's basically like, yeah, that's his whole conflict in this film, really. Yeah. So.
And I love how in one scene he's telling Vincenzo, never say what you're thinking, because he's doing like the classic Sonny thing.
Yeah.
And then the next scene he's having a diabetic stroke and he's like,
yeah,
Altabello, you old fuck.
Yeah.
Fredo. He's just
he's having a
freaking out.
Yeah, he's having a fit.
He's saying everything on his mind.
Yeah.
So it was funny because he just said, never say what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then I mean that's I really like that scene. Whenever we get like angry Michael in this movie, I think is great stuff. It's spicy.
It is good. I really like the scenes with him and Kay a lot, actually, too. I thought those were extrememely good.
Were you glad to see them getting back together?
Yeah, I was. I in the sense that like they're both extreme. People are complicated. People are horribly, terribly complicated, and it's like it's almost like she kind of like practically like laughs at herself in the sense that like you've done all these horrible things, and for some reason I still love you throughout all of this, and it's just like people are just so. It's so. I mean, we can't understand ourselves half the time, and I thought that given the amount of time has been past, the fact that she was seeing that Michael was trying to do better rather than because she says earlier on in the film, it's like, I wish you were, I almost wish you were like you were back then, because I'm more scared of you now. You're more filled with you fill me with more with dread, because I think to me it's almost like she's assuming that he's trying to like milk the Catholic Church to pull more jobs or whatever. Toward as they kind of converse and sort of reacquaint themselves with each other, they're able to kind of reconcile in a way, and that, to me, seeing at least some signs of reconciliation and the kind of things that so many, it's like, it's hard to express, but it's like the film just does a really good job of grappling with like how relationships, and I don't just mean like romantic relationships, but like how complicated they are in terms of, man, I don't know. I'm struggling to kind of put exactly what I'm thinking into words, but it's I don't know. I did really like that. I really like the idea of Michael being able to find some semblance of reconciliation or redemption with his family. After his diabetic stroke, it kind of comes back, and he sort of rekindles it with his son. He's been trying to see. You can tell that he's sort of been trying to reach out to him, but he's just like, oh, I don't know about this whole artist thing. It's like, how do you make money on that? It's like, yet his son is like supremely talented, because he's able to score an opera, and friggin' Sicily. That's pretty good. Yeah, but he's able to sort of patch things up with his family, and it looks like he is genuinely trying, and he's having some results to show for that, I guess, is sort of like it's heartening in a way. And yeah, it does still end in tragedy, but that sort of goes back to the kind of the themes of the second one, where you reap what you sow.
Well, yeah. When we were talking about what could be in the part 3 at the end of the last video, we were like, we couldn't imagine what they were going to do with it. We were like, you can't have him have like a redemption thing, because like Michael, he's so far gone. You can't redeem from that, and you can't. So I feel like the only thing we could get out of it is like a satisfying death. Right? That's what I was expecting, is some sort of we somehow just desserts.
And yet we somehow did get.
We got the redemption.
Kind of both of them, but like the death itself was done.
He got it was a peaceful death, though. Like, yeah, he got to.
But it was a death alone.
He's alone in the moment. We don't know. He could just be sitting alone.
No, but that in terms of the filmmaking showing that he's in isolation. He's all by himself. He's just sitting out in a field. Like, he's not doing anything like his father had been doing. But that's not what I had in mind for a satisfying death. Oh, well, me neither.
So they took us down the redemption arc path, like, and then it's the kind of a struggle with, like, can he get redemption? Does he deserve redemption? So what do you think? Like, did he redeem himself?
I mean, he was certainly trying to. I think to a point, yes. But with a life filled with murder and crime and killing your own family, there was redemption in the fact that he was genuinely trying to better himself, but he still got in some essence, he still had to pay for what he had done.
And yet, it's like his punishment is almost living with more people suffering, like the fact that his daughter died there and not him.
Yeah.
So that's more the punishment. So it's like he didn't get his just desserts in being assassinated there. It almost would have been
probably more satisfying for him. You think of that he would just be shot in a way like that, but no, he has to continue to live knowing that more of his family died. He didn't off himself or anything like that.
It's ultimately because of him,
Yeah.
Because he put the family in that position in the first place. So.
Yeah.
But it's like, is there justice if, like, Mary, who didn't do anything wrong, she died?
Other than loving her cousin, which is weird.
She didn't do anything wrong.
Incest is not. There's nothing wrong with it.
that is the theme of this movie. There's nothing wrong with
There's
incest.
incest. It's like an anime, you know.
There's something there.
There's nothing wrong
But
with incest. There you go.
but you definitely, the way they present it in this movie is not in a negative light. It's not like
No, it's
they're the
weird.
weird ones. They're like
That's what's
Michael
weird
is the
about it.
judgmental one who's trying to control this love.
Yeah,
Gotta
I
let it
didn't.
blossom.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know how we were supposed to interpret, like, if we were supposed to interpret Michael being against it as like a bad thing.
I think so. I think
don't
that's
know.
how they presented it, like from
I don't.
every angle. Because like
I refused while I was watching. I refused to interpret it that way.
he's like the
So
only
I
one.
didn't.
He's like the only one in opposition to it, and everybody's like, "Oh, there goes Michael again, trying
Yeah.
to control his children."
Yeah, everyone else was just kind of rolling with it, and it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, like even
Michael,
Kay
you
was
have to
rolling. It
admit,
was
it's
Kay.
kind of hot, Michael.
Was Kay rolling with it? Like she didn't even seem to.
She
didn't
was.
seem-
She was absolutely
yeah.
rolling with it. She was like,
Yeah, she was like, she's in love, and he's like, yeah, it's
"A
wrong.
handsome Italian man."
With a handsome Italian man, and he's like, yeah, it's wrong, and it's dangerous.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and then they just sort of dropped it after that. She didn't have any response to it. She just sort of was like, oh, let's go watch this street play. Like that was kind of what happened.
Interesting. There's something here.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Oh, we didn't talk about the helicopter, whole helicopter scene.
Oh, that was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Classic. Bunch of people getting murdered. Scene.
That was a very like gangster movie, like what you would expect in a gangster movie. It's
Yeah.
like all the people together. Oh, we're all we're all kind of rewarded. Michael's leaving, but at least he's giving us some money from the shares or whatever. Oh, that's great. And then the one guy's like, "I'm gonna get you." And then sure enough, like
Hate that guy.
5 minutes later, he murders all of them,
Yeah.
like practically. So
And then Michael and Vincenzo are the only two that get out of there. Really. Well, what's his name? Altabello.
Altabello gets out too. Yeah,
That guy's weird.
Altabello. Yeah, he's super into the incest. Yeah,
He kind of weird though.
yeah, he's a little weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he really liked that cannoli. Yeah.
There's some weird stuff in this movie, but I don't know. It's got heart.
It was still really solid. I still enjoyed it. It's definitely missing the master stroke of the earlier films.
There's a master
so.
stroke, and the fact that it ultimately culminates with Vincenzo Corleone.
Yeah.
I don't think like his arc. There's not much there, right? It's like
Not really, yeah.
Compared to Vito, who was just he just had to exist, and he was already like
You're
he had
like
the
a-
presence there.
He was a friggin' legend, and then you get his
But then in the second part,
fantastic. You get his
yeah.
backstory in that, and it's great. That's whole backstory.
And
is
then Michael's obviously his arc is really fascinating. So then you just end up with Vincenzo in the end here, and it's like, well, he was already on board like from the beginning. He was just
Yeah.
like, let me kill this guy.
It's like okay,
and
and
then-
then Michael's like, "Stop killing guys," and he's like, "But I want to keep doing it."
I want to kill guys though, and he's like,
So,
well,
yeah.
just don't sleep with your cousin.
And then it's like, well, I guess he was trying to do that already.
I thought, I don't know, I thought it could have gone a weird way where like he killed Michael so that he could be with his cousin in the end.
That would have been so.
I thought
That
it
would
might
have
be
been.
a
That would have
thing.
been gross. I would have been like, why do even people hold it in high regard then? I'd
Would've
be like,
been
that's such a
kinda hot.
gross ending of the movie. It's kind of
Would
hot.
have been kind of hot.
No,
though.
it's not at all. It's so weird.
But yeah, so like the fact that Vincenzo, he's the Godfather in the end of this trilogy. Is,
So Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola were actually considering making a fourth film that was going to be about Vincent. That didn't end up happening because Mario Puzo passed away. Thank goodness, because I don't think I
here for the
would have liked
Vincent.
that. I don't know if I would have been okay with that, to be honest.
what could Vincent have done? He would have had to got it on with his cousin. That's the only thing he can do at that point, because well, his cousin's dead.
Well, his cousin's dead, yeah, so he can't do that. Yeah,
They would have rewritten the whole thing if they were.
they
gonna
would
do the fourth part.
have.
Michael would have been. You would have seen Michael there, so they would have had to rewritten.
I think it was going to be about like gonna try to make it more about like modern day, like gang societies and
Set in
the fact that
2010s.
yeah, it's set in the 2010s. It was probably going to be set in the 90s. So we were in the 80s by the end of the. But
Yeah, but Vincenzo, like, there's nothing there. There's nowhere to go.
not really. Yeah, I mean, I think he was a good character for what he was in this movie, but I mean, Michael was just the most interesting thing. Still, it's all really all about him.
But okay, next week we're gonna take a look at Coda.
Yeah,
The death of Michael Corleone.
Yeah. So, what do you rate this film, by the way? What score would you give this? This is tough for me, honestly. Yeah, I'm kind of in a tough spot here.
I'd say it's a good movie. It's a good movie,
Same.
but again, I was bored personally with a lot of it. I think a lot of the storylines didn't work for me. Like, even though it was based in his history somewhat, the Pope thing and the bank thing, I was like, okay, I could do without that whole storyline. Honestly, it wasn't that interesting.
It was, and then George Hamilton was in this movie too. It was just so weird. Like, it was just, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of
stuff was Archbishop.
It was very distracting.
Storyline. It's like
some of the stuff was kind of distracting, but
so I think I'll settle on. But it was kind of hot.
I've got a score. I've got a score in mind.
That cooking scene. Okay, you want to do it?
I give it 7.5. Yeah.
7.5. Okay.
Yeah. I to me, it's like I was saying. Sofia Coppola's role in this film. I said this when like at the end of the film, it almost tanks the whole movie because the entire movie is sort of like revolves around her, this whole relationship, her kind of arc.
I didn't find her that distracting, honestly.
I did. She's so bad, and the and her death being like sort of like the final crux of the film, where it's like the most important thing that like Michael still can't find, any peace. It just doesn't work because she was such a bad actress and didn't fit. And,
but the character herself, I think.
But we talked about how squicky the incest was.
Yeah, but she was the closest thing to wholesome. I guess if Kay had died there, maybe. But it's like that, like she did no wrong, like nothing to deserve being killed. Like she didn't have anything part of that.
This is what I mean. It still works. That's why I say almost. It almost tanks the film, but I think it's still effective enough to the point where, I get what they were going for. I don't think she was nearly as effective. Winona Ryder was actually the original choice for her, for Mary. Would have been phenomenal because Winona Ryder's great. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, honestly, but regardless,
Sophia cute though.
Right. Yes, she was very cute. She was very cute, but
she didn't know how to cook. It was awesome.
Would just stop. But the rest of the film holds up extremely well. The performances are really good. It's pretty dull through a lot of parts of it. I think all of the stuff with Michael still works really well. The confession scene, I thought that was one of my favorite. We didn't mention that before. That was actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, the way that was shot. Oh my gosh, we didn't really go into cinematography, but yeah, the whole cinematography of that scene was just beautiful. Fantastic. So that still was great. I will say the remaster was not as good as the other two. There was some weird, like odd color correction choices that were just, it looked to me like it was color correction, and it seemed like it was, I don't know. It was like kind of washed out in some points. I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not, but
it didn't feel like it was 20 years later, like this movie. But it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like visually, it kind of felt similar.
Yeah. Well, you do when you shoot on film, you got to get that film grain. I almost felt like, I don't know, there's something weird about the remaster didn't feel as good as the other two. I didn't feel, but
all right, I think I'll go with a 7 out of 10. I think
that's fair.
I'm between 7 and 7.5. I think it could be there. I think Michael and Al Pacino himself could be worthy of 7.5 just for that. But
for sure,
overall, I just think the story was lacking, and it's not as it didn't draw me in as much, and it was kind of
weirdly convoluted. It was weirdly convoluted,
and you had to be on board for the cousin love in order to get something out of this movie. So it wasn't all there for me.
You had to be on board with that cousin.
To really get the full payoff, you had to be on board. So
the most awkward kissing.
Yeah.
Look, my first kisses weren't that bad.
I mean,
They were bad, but they weren't that bad.
Cooking was the primary thing on their mind at that time. They just wanted to cook.
Yeah.
So yeah,
shouldn't make out in a kitchen. That's all I have to say. Too many sharp knives.
well, too many chefs. Yeah, okay. All right. It dragged on too long. A lot of the things for me, and the final thing, the whole opera scene dragged on. But
yeah.
So not perfect, but it's still good.
No. Yeah, it was still good. I don't necessarily know if I would always, if when I'm rewatching these, I don't know if I would always be like, yeah, I want to throw that one in too. But maybe it is a decent enough epilogue. I will say that. I
definitely think if it was framed as an epilogue, it's much better that way for sure.
Yeah,
because it's not like a pillar as much as the other ones. Because because you have Vincenzo has to represent this pillar. Then if that's a trilogy, and it's not as strong.
Doesn't really work as well. Yeah.
So that's going to be 7.25 out of 10 Tarqaron score. All right. So next week we'll check out Coda. Yeah. So I'm really interested, because we'll give a score again. We'll see if
there's any discernible difference. I don't know. I know it's a re-edit. I don't know how much was changed. Really.
I have a whole Blu-ray just for this thing.
It's a whole Blu-ray just for it though. And to me, it's like, was this to offset was there a bad year for? Because I don't know if you know this, but Francis Ford Coppola doesn't direct anymore. He retired he runs a winery.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
So out in California, they make wines. So I don't know if this was did they have a bad year and he was just looking for a little extra dough to be like, maybe 2020 was just a rough year for them. So he was like, I've got some time. Maybe I'll just re-edit this film the way I wanted to release it,
Mm-hmm.
the way I wanted it to come out, not with less studio interference.
It'll be really interesting to see.
I don't know.
If it's
any major, yeah.
Because we're basically rewatching. We just said I don't know if we would rewatch it. If
here we go. We're have to watch it again.
Specifically, the one we're gonna see. See, I think we can look at this. If it's gonna be a trilogy, we can look at the trilogy and say there's not a bad movie there. It feels like it's almost they took this movie and it's got a little bit of that prequel magic sprinkled on it from Star Wars. It's there's a little weird romance stuff, and some things don't work as well, but it's but you still had it's like Revenge of the Sith. It's still
fun. It's still good. It's still good. It's still good enough. I mean we obviously we've memed on Star Wars plenty. I'll still watch the prequels. It's as much as I dump on them.
It's like you take the original trilogy as the first two, and then Revenge of the Sith up there. For some people, it's up there, comparable for their favorite. Yeah. So I don't know if that's the case with Part 3. I don't know if there are a lot of people out, Ryder dies. Part 3 is the best, but
I don't know about that. I'll have to look into that. That'd be kind of interesting to see, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
You can't
for many people.
Yeah, it's like
even the Academy. This was nominated for Best Picture that year, but it didn't win, and it shouldn't have.
Which, by the way, there was a category on Jeopardy the other night where it was this director won was an Oscar for Best Picture for two movies, movie and its sequel.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah.
So it's if this was just as good as those ones, imagine you have a whole trilogy of Oscars.
That would have been amazing. That would literally never happen again.
Yeah.
That would.
Yeah, it's whenever you have a trilogy, I feel like there's never you never seen three strong ones. So that's why, if it was a duology, it would actually work much better.
Yeah.
But all right. Stay tuned. Next week we'll finish it all.
Is there a video that our fine watchers of this video should go check out, and the listeners?
They obviously have to watch The Devil's Advocate, dude. There's so much.
Yeah, you got. There's so much Pacino.
There's so much parallel between. He said he told. Wait, who said this? I wrote this quote down. Michael said to Mary, "I would burn in hell to keep you safe."
Oh yeah. There you go. Here he is. This is the true sequel.
The Devil's Advocate is kind of a spiritual successor.
Yeah, it's the true sequel to The Godfather Part 3.
If you're wondering where Michael...
You even have incest themes and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Al Pacino is the... Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
There's
he was okay with it now. Yeah, yeah.
That's an arc. Redemption arc.
Redemption.
He's on the right side of history now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's a little
All
bit
right.
of devil's advocate in here, dude.
Yeah.
The whole... I mean, the whole thing in part 2, with the whole baptism scene, it was like, oh, the devil's advocate? He's got the devil in him. That's what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our podcast feed. Like the video. Leave a comment. Hit the notification bell. And follow us on Twitter at Tarqaron TWO. Also, like us on Facebook.
Yeah, we have a new Facebook page. We're gonna post some videos on there once in a while. It'll be good.
I'm gonna
cool.
freaking post a poll. Who here thinks part 3 is the best?
Can you even do polls anymore?
I don't know. I think
Because a friend of mine,
thing.
a friend of mine had like a it was basically, he had a page that was like called like Deathmatch or something like that, and it would just be like goofy things he'd come up with for in terms of like this or this, and then he can't do it anymore. Like it was just like a year or two ago, and it was
I guess it is only a Facebook group thing now.
I think that's stupid.
It is. So I'll still have to use Twitter. I'll use Twitter for a poll.
Yeah, there you go.
All
right.
Who thinks part 3 is the best Godfather movie?
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Yeah. We gotta single them out.
Blocked. Just block them all.
Yeah, blocked. Alrighty.
No. If we were missing the offer that you can't refuse in here. What if Vincenzo just said it randomly?
Just towards the end.
Every Godfather has to say it.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we'll make him an offer he can't refuse or something.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna make you an offer you
can't refuse. Yeah.
I want you to marry me, Mary.
Marry me.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.